Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this special City Council meeting, September 29th, 2020. This meeting is being recorded by video and audio in accordance with the Open State Meeting Law, consistent with the governor's orders suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law and banning gatherings of more than 25 people. This meeting will be conducted by remote participation. Additionally, all votes taken by the City Council during this and future remote meetings will be by roll call vote. If you are calling in on a phone, you can press *9 to request to speak. If you are watching on a computer or a device, there is a raise hand button that you can tap or press to request to speak. Please use either of these options during the public hearing to be recognized to speak. I will repeat that several times over the evening, so anybody listening in the audience and the attendees, if you're unsure, I will keep repeating that so you are aware. In tonight's meeting, we have myself, Councilor LeBlanc, we have Councilor McCarthy, we have Councilor Gilman, Councilor Pett, Councilor Memhard, Councilor Holmgren, Councilor O'Hara, and Councilor Nolan. And Councilor Cox is just joining us. So, Melissa, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right, awesome. So we have a full house of councilors. We have 19 people on the panel. And we have 39 people as attendees. And once again, I'm going to state later on when we get to the public hearing part of this to people to speak. I will repeat myself on how to request to speak. All righty. So we have a consent agenda. Is there any councilors that would like to pull anything off the consent agenda? All right, seeing none, I will entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda as written.
So moved.
Second.
Right. It's been moved by Councilor Gilman, seconded by Councilor Holmgren. I will call for the roll call. Councilor Holmgren.
Yes.
Councilor LeBlanc. Yes. Councilor McCarthy.
Yes.
Councilor Memhard.
Yes.
Councilor O'Hara, Nolan.
Yes.
Councilor O'Hara.
Yes.
Councilor Pett.
Yes, thank you.
Councilor Cox.
Yes.
And Councilor Gilman.
Yes.
Roll call to motion to accept the consent agenda passes on a roll call of 9 in favor, 0 opposed. Alrighty, so let me try to get this going a little bit here. So this evening we have our mayor, Safati Romeo Taken. We have our former superintendent, Richard Sapphire. We have our current superintendent, Ben Lummis. We have our chairman, Jonathan Pope. We have our CFO, John Dunn. We have our acting CAO, Vanessa. We have our planning developer, Greg Cadamatori. We have a lot of people here. We have our community development director, Jill Cahill. And I'm going to try to go through our attendees list here. We have Amy Pasquarello, our East Gloucester principal. And if I miss anybody, please let me know.
Chip, our legal counsel.
Oh, we have legal counsel Chip Payson. We have Joel Favazza from the school committee. We have, let's see, I'm scrolling down, everybody. Just be patient with me for a second. All right. I think we have a former councilor president, Paul Lumberg. We have Samantha Watson for the school committee. And I think that is it. Did I miss anybody, Val? I know you keeping track a little bit better than myself. Council Holmgren?
We have at least a couple of the elementary school principals. I see Amy Pasquarello. I'm sorry, I totally screwed that up. Amy Pasquarello and Matt Fusco as well. He has his hand raised. Hello.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you, Jen. All right. Madam Clerk, can we have the next order of business, please?
Councilor Blank, I'm sorry.
Oh, 1 second. Vanessa?
We have Mike Hale on the line as an attendee, and he's going to be part of the staff presentation if you can promote him.
I will, absolutely.
Thank you.
If I can find him. Mike, if you can raise your hand so I can see which one you are, because I have several mics. All right. More promote panelists. All right, Mike, you in with us? Okay, he's in. great. Thank you. Thank you, Vanessa. Madam Clerk, can we have the next order of business, please?
Next order of business is the public hearing 2020-028. The City Council vote regarding the Gloucester Land Disposition Committee's recommendation to transfer the care, custody, and control of land known and numbered as 11 Webster Street, which includes Meadows Field, Assessors Map 47, Lot 13, to the Gloucester School Committee for school purposes.
All righty, I will open the public hearing, and I will ask, so let me go over the public hearing real quick. So I'm going to ask the people that are in favor, they will have a lead speaker, or they can divide up that time. They get 15 minutes. We're going to try to be on time, strict with the time, because we've got quite a few people that are going to try to chime in tonight. If the in favor goes over a little bit, we'll have to give that to the opposition. Opposition will get 15 minutes also. And then after that, we're going to do 3 minutes each from in favor and opposition. At the end of the in favor and opposition, we will do a rebuttal, one rebuttal for the in favor and the opposition. So everybody will get a chance to speak tonight. Council Holmgren, did you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I was hoping we could read all the emails that we have received into the record. There was quite a volume of them, but I think it is important to allow those to be heard who could not attend this meeting tonight, many of whom are parents.
Yep. So we're not going to be able to read every single one of them, but at some point when we get to communications during the public hearing, Joanne will recognize the amount of letters we got that were in favor and opposition. So we will have a tally of them. It'll be almost nearly, we'll be here for 3 days if we read every single letter and try to get through the public hearing. But it will be noted. Thank you, Counselor.
Thank you.
All right, so we're going to start off with the in favor. Is there anybody that would like to speak in favor of this in the public hearing? All right, who would like to speak first?
Is this where you'd like the administration to speak?
Yes.
Okay, I'll go ahead and start.
All right, Chip.
Mr. President, members of the City Council, on January 22nd, 2020, I sent a memo to you that outlined the process for the use of certain land located at 11 Webster Street for a new combined school. The ultimate use of that land was contingent upon several steps. One significant step was to secure Article 97 relief from the Commonwealth through legislation. The city secured the necessary relief on July 31st, 2020. The next step required Mike Hale as DPW director to issue a memo that the land was no longer needed for its current purpose. That memo was submitted to the mayor's office on September 1st, 2020. The city's land disposition committee then met in a September 4th, and in a September 4th memo recommended that the care, custody, and control of certain land at 11 Webster Street be transferred to the school committee for municipal school purposes. The mayor referred the matter to the city council, and now we're at the final step in the process. This step requires by statute the city council by a 2/3 vote transfer the care, custody, and control of the land to the school committee for use for school purposes. That's the vote that's before you tonight. As many of you know, the MSBA approved a grant amount of over $26 million for the combined school project on August 26, 2020. The MSBA put a time restriction of 120 days on that approval, during which time the city is required to take certain actions. According to the MSBA, the approval of the East Gloucester Elementary School project is contingent upon the school committee gaining full ownership, control, and exclusive use of the site. This means that this vote before you now is time sensitive and required. I know there are concerns about the vote in November and what would happen to this land transfer if that vote failed. Like the $4.2 million that you recently approved, this land transfer would be unwound in the case that the vote is unsuccessful in November, and the land at 11 Webster Street would be returned to the city's care, custody, and control. That's all I have. There are a number of folks here to answer questions, obviously, but I'll turn it over to the next person on the administration side who'd like to comment.
Thank you, Chip. And who would like to speak next?
Mr. President, Mike Hale, Public Works Director. As Council Payson mentioned, The care and custody of this public property is held under the Director of Public Works by City Charter. As the school site selection committee sought very carefully a site for the new combined elementary schools, this site was sought as a possible contender, and the selection committee ruled that it was the best site. And reading their deliberations, looking at the various sites that they chose, I do believe that the best interest of this site is for a combined elementary school. My memo to land disposition indicated that, and that's the vote we took at land disposition. This site would be best used for a combined elementary school. With that said, we certainly recognize that open space and ball fields in the city are a premium, and we are looking to develop a new multi-field softball complex at another site in the city of Gloucester.
All right, thank you, Mike. Appreciate that. Is there anybody else that would like to speak in favor?
Thank you, Counselor. Vanessa Prozic, Interim Chief Administrative Officer for the city. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
As Chip and Mike had mentioned, on August 26th, the MSBA approved a total facilities grant for the combined school project for as much as $26,942,022. That vote triggered a 120-day countdown where a number of procedural items must take place in order to enter into a project funding agreement with the MSBA. Most notably, in the matter in which we are here before you tonight, is that the MSBA board approval of the combined school project is contingent upon the school committee gaining full control of the site. City administration fully supports tonight's motion to transfer the care, custody, and control of the land at 11 Webster Street, which includes Meadows Field, to the school committee for municipal school purposes. It is an important next step in the process, and it reflects the city's commitment to this project as we continue to work in earnest to build a new school. While we remain hopeful that the ballot question number 3 will pass on November 3rd, if it does not, we will move to have this action rescinded, like we said we would do with the $4.2 million ancillary cost loan order that was approved last week. Our sincere thanks to Senator Tarr and Representative Ferranti for leading the Article 97 effort, and for the careful thought, deliberation, and consideration, and ultimate approval of the legislature on this important matter. Also, our thanks to the Land Disposition Committee for their deliberation, consideration, and recommendation to the mayor for this matter to move forward for council action. We ask that you please vote in favor tonight to clear the path to let Gloucester residents decide the outcome in the November election. As you can see, there are a number of city and school representatives with us tonight, and we'd be glad to answer any questions you may have. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to our superintendent, Ben Lummis.
Thank you, Vanessa.
Thank you very much, Councilor LeBlanc and City Council members. Prime Minister tonight, Ben Lummis, Superintendent of Schools. So the Gloucester schools are off to a great start this year. As you know, so far we've been able to do what many school districts didn't have the persistence, moxie, or determination to do. We've opened our schools for the majority of our students for the majority of every day. We need now to turn that dedication and determination to the next most important task, continuing to build the future of Gloucester's public schools. More than 70 years ago, city leaders had the vision and foresight to build new schools for all the city's children. They built East Gloucester, West Parish, Veterans, Beaman, and Plum Cove, and set the course for the city to educate its children for decades. Now, 70 years later, the current generation of city leaders, many of whom are on this call, is in the midst of the same process. We are 1/3 of the way through the long-range plan to rebuild our schools. This long-term capital planning takes commitment and leadership to see it through. Tonight, the City Council has in front of it the opportunity to take the next step forward in rebuilding Gloucester's schools. Tonight, I urge the City Council to take the next step and help set up our city for 50, 60, or maybe 70 years with new school facilities that will serve generations and generations of students. Building a new school for the veterans in East Gloucester school communities will be much more than a new school. It will be a brand new public facility in the heart of downtown Gloucester, serving children with new playgrounds, providing much needed performance and athletic space indoors, and able to hold community and neighborhood meetings. And this plan is even more than that. It is a plan that the whole city will benefit from. Creating open space in East Gloucester and building a new recreational facility with multiple fields that an entire city will enjoy using, and watching their families and children compete on. And let there be no mistake, the time to build this great new school is now. We are doing this at a time when borrowing is at a historic low, meaning the financial impact on citizens will never be less than it is if we move forward now. Acting now minimizes or eliminates much risk. If we don't continue to move forward, our taxpayers will have to pay more and get less. As I presented to the City Council 2 weeks ago, the city would have to pay more than $30 million just to keep the East Gloucester and Veterans buildings up to code and standing over the next 10 years. Paying nearly what we would pay for a brand new building and still providing our children with less and less. There is no more fix it up a little and we can get by. The DPW and the city have been doing that for the last 10 years. If the city delays, we will have to build new schools at some point, but they will be much, much more expensive. I'm new to the city, but I deeply believe, and from what I've learned from so many people in the few months I've been here, that Gloucester's children deserve a new school. A new modern facility like West Parish for many more students, with a gym and a cafeteria, an art room and a music room, spaces for our most vulnerable learners to get the special education, language, or guidance support that they need to be successful, play spaces and safe outdoor spaces, a building that's accessible to all people. We should have reliable heating, ventilation, and not just hope to get through one more winter with boilers that are breaking down and have alarms going off. I hope you will support our children in this next step in supporting the land swap. I hope you'll support our families and the future of this great city by supporting the land swap and leading the way to November 3rd. Thank you.
On mute. Thank you, Ben. Is there anybody else from the administration that would like to speak in favor?
Yes, I would, Counselor.
May you take it.
Thank you very much, Council President LeBlanc, City Councilors, and everyone else who's on here. Thank you so much. I don't know what's happening with, hold on, so people don't get upset. Yes, it's really me. We're an important crossroads for the combined school project as people get ready to vote, whether it be early voting, mail-in ballots, or polls on November 3rd. There is a lot to stake. We have the opportunity to work with the MSBA and receive facilities grants for up to almost $27 million. That's a considerable amount. I was on the past project. I've been a city councilor. That's a considerable amount, especially at the times we are right now. With that considerable amount of money to mitigate the total cost of this project, we shouldn't pass this up. We've been extremely fortunate to the MSBA to support multiple projects in a short window of time. Other communities don't even get this kind of support. This combined school project is critical and important for our city and a great choice for the city of Gloucester. A new school will benefit the city by providing a modern learning environment and amenities for our children, reducing long-term maintenance costs. It's a smart investment for the future of our city. Gloucester families and children deserve the 21st century facility, and our children's future depends on it. Do we build a foundation for school now, or are we going to build a foundation for something else later? When I became mayor, I pledged to advocate for and make improvements on 3 S's: safety, schools, and my seniors. It's no secret that I was not a fan of this location and for the proposed combined school in other areas, but the location what I wanted for veterans was a firefighter headquarters. Safety. But after looking at this, I believe and listen, and I don't want the could have, should have, would have in the past. Right now, this is the choice we have, and this is the choice we need to make. Gloucester, it's the right time now. Please, trust me. I fully support tonight's motion to transfer and care custody and control of the land at 11 Webster Street, which includes Meadows Field, to the school committee for municipality for school purposes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Taken. All right, is there anybody else that were from the administration? Dr. Sapphire.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm speaking as Vice Chair of the School Building Committee, and I am, of course, speaking in favor of the approval of the transfer of land to build a new consolidated elementary school on the current veteran school site. Given the conditions of the current schools, the need for a new facility for our students is paramount, but I'm not speaking on that issue tonight. Tonight's vote is a technical matter, and this is consistent with what has now been a very technical process. And that technical process has been carefully vetted over time, carefully crafted, and overseen each step of the way. A statement of interest was submitted to the Massachusetts School Building Authority in 2017. This project was one of 17 accepted out of 92 applications. The statement of interest required information about maintenance and capital planning, enrollment projections, and the formation of a school building committee and a project team. The MSBA accepted Gloucester into a feasibility study, a process which lasted the better part of a year. Potential directions for the project were narrowed down from 14 to 9, then to 2, and finally down to 1, the current proposal. After the feasibility study was approved by the MSBA, the project entered into a process of schematic design. During this phase, the team working closely with the MSBA documented our educational program, its needs. It generated an initial space summary, documented existing conditions, established design parameters, and through careful vetting, recommended a cost-effective and educationally appropriate solution to the MSBA Board of Directors for their consideration. 2 major documents were submitted in this regard, a preliminary design program and a preferred schematic report. The project then moved into the schematic design phase. A detailed schematic was developed establishing the scope, budget, and schedule of the proposed project. On August the 26th, the MSBA Board of Directors approved the project. In so doing, as we've already heard, they are now prepared to reimburse project costs in the amount of $26.9 million out of a $66.7 million project. That support will be consummated through a project scope and budget agreement with the City of Gloucester. So as you can see, the process has been extensive, I would say exhaustive, and highly technical in nature. Article 97 and the transfer of land constitutes an associative technical component that is required for the support that the MSBA is prepared to dedicate toward that project, and for the project to move forward toward a vote on November 3rd. The City Council has previously voted to send Article 97, a request to the state legislature for their required review. Both the Senate and the House of Representatives, each requiring a 2/3 vote approving the proposal, voted overwhelmingly in favor. I ask the City Council in the strongest terms possible to approve the Gloucester Land Disposition Committee's recommendation to transfer the care, custody, and control of the land known as 11 Webster Street to the Gloucester School Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Rich. And we're almost at the 15-minute mark, Pete. Is there anybody else from the administration that would like to speak? Chairman Pope?
I'm not technically from the administration, but I'm speaking tonight as the chair of the building committee. And I would just like to reiterate some of the things that have already been touched on about the process with which brought us to this point this evening. Back in 2002, the Gloucester School Committee engaged Mount Vernon Group for the purpose of evaluating our elementary schools, because at that point we knew that we had to do something with them. We were not able to do anything. Those of you who remember that period, it was very difficult to do much of anything. In 2004, the City Council requested a management audit of the schools. And I'm going to read you one of the findings of the management audit. It is to review the location and condition of all school facilities and determine if measures can be implemented to conserve fiscal resources while maintaining an effective instructional program and affordable student transportation. Such review should consider school size effective best practices data. In 2008, we submitted a statement of interest for West Parish. It was eventually accepted in 2012, and in 2016, the school was completed. In 2014, the school committee engaged in a plan to assess the condition of the remaining 4 elementary schools that we had in place. And after a year of going around and having open forums at every elementary school, we developed the master plan for our elementary schools in 2016, in August of 2016, which would reduce the elementary schools to 3 schools: West Parish, a combined East Gloucester and Vets, and a combined Beaman and Plum Cove. As Rich stated, we submitted a statement of interest. At that point, we submitted a statement of interest for both Beaman and for East Gloucester because they were both worthy of needing to be replaced, but the MSBA told us we had to just, we could only have one statement of interest, so we decided on East Gloucester, but at the same time being clear, our intention was to consolidate with veterans. We were accepted into feasibility in 2018, and since then the building committee was formed, and we've had over 60 public meetings. We considered every available publicly owned property that was in the catchment area of veterans in East Gloucester. We looked at the East Gloucester site, and we also looked at acquiring private land adjacent to it. We looked at veterans. We looked at Swinson's Field. We looked at the Pines. We looked at the Babson watershed off of Eastern Avenue. We looked at Harrison Avenue. We looked at Green Street and Essex Street. We also gave a cursory look to private property, but we were instructed to look at primarily at city-owned property. So I just want to say that this is a well-vetted process. It's been well considered. We've been before the public, as I said, for over 60 meetings. We didn't get here casually or because of not having done our due diligence. So I would urge you to move this project forward by transferring the property. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Pope. So we're at 19 minutes, and this is, I'm just going to make sure, I'm going to write that down to make sure we give the opposition the same amount of time, just to be fair with everybody. All right. So that's it for the administration for the open presentation. Vanessa?
Yes, Counselor, thank you.
All right. So we're gonna stick to the in favors while we're here now. I'm gonna open this up to the public and ask, I'm gonna repeat myself what I said at the beginning of the meeting. So if you are calling in on a telephone, you can press *9 to request to speak. If you are using a computer or a device, there is a raise hand button, and you can press that and I will recognize you to speak. So I'm going to start off with the first person and go right down in order. Joel Favaza. Name and address for the record, please.
Thank you. My name is Joel Favaza. I'm at 28 Middle Street. I am a school committee member, but I am not speaking on behalf of the committee. They're too smart to let me do that. I am speaking in favor of the transfer of Maidosfield to the school committee. You know, although I know plenty of people, myself included, may be unhappy with the path we took to get to tonight's vote, the reality is the democratic and the bureaucratic processes have played out. The site has been selected and approved at both a local and a state level. And this new school is either coming to Webster Street or it's not coming at all. There's no longer a third option where we build this new school somewhere else. And so with that reality before us, for me at least, that choice becomes very easy. And so I once again just respectfully urge you to please vote in favor of the transfer. This is the best path forward.
Alrighty, thank you, Joel. Just to repeat what I said earlier, we're going to have 3 minutes for the in favor part of the public hearing. So we have our principal, Ms. Pasquarello. Amy, can you hear me?
I can.
Name and address for the record, please.
Amy Pasquarello, 17 Porter Street, Wenham. I work at 8 Davis Street, Extension, Gloucester.
Good.
Councilor Blank, could you also have Matt Fusco join, because they're going to speak together. Is that possible?
Let me see if I can get Matt. Well, it'd be hard to split their time unless they're going to do a minute and a half each. So if Amy's got something she wants to say, I recommend that they speak separately.
Okay. Amy, can you guys make that work?
Yeah. I mean, I can promote him, Amy, if that's okay with you, if you need him.
I don't think we'll be more than 3 minutes combined.
All right.
All
right, I got Matt on too, so.
Okay.
All right, hold on one second. Matt, can we have your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, hi. Thank you. Matt Fusco, 4 Cottage Street, South Hamilton, Massachusetts.
All righty.
11 Webster Street, Gloucester, Massachusetts.
All righty, you guys are on. Go right ahead.
All right. My name is Matt Fusco. I'm the principal of the Veterans Memorial Elementary School.
Get
And
down.
Amy?
Sorry.
And I'm Amy Pasquarello, the principal of East Gloucester Elementary School.
So we are presenting a joint statement regarding our full support and approval of the combined East Gloucester Veterans School Building Project.
We need a new school building. The need for a new school building is a constant challenge at EGS. I want to thank the DPW for their endless support in keeping the building running. Whether it's the boiler alarms going off, fuses blowing out, or the heat fluctuating in the building from 47 degrees one day to 100 degrees the next. The needs of the building continuously pose a challenge. Just today, we had the line for the fax machine repaired as the phone line was down. As soon as that was fixed, the intercom, which should have no connection to the fax line, went down. This resulted in the school staff running throughout the hallways to dismiss students as we were unable to make any announcements. Not only is this a challenge for dismissal, but it causes a safety issue. The DPW quickly comes to repair whatever breaks, but the overall systems such as heating, electrical, internet, plumbing, etc. are old and outdated. These systems are in desperate need of upgrading and will be very costly to replace. The expense of upgrading all of these systems will trip code requirements and require us to address the various ADA requirements that are not in place at East Gloucester. As one DPW worker told me, we do not have enough Band-Aids to keep East Gloucester running without the building project. Another challenge for EGS is the amount of space available in the building. This year, in particular, we are maximizing the distancing between students and spreading out. We run into the challenge of having enough space to properly educate the students. This new building will provide flexibility to move students into extended learning areas and blended classrooms when needed. We will have the space to provide interventions and services that best support the needs of students.
The combined school project represents well over 2 years worth of work. And if it comes to fruition, it is going to be a school building that all of us can be very proud of. We believe that the design and space utilized for this building will make it the center of community activity and academic learning. As the principal of a school with close to 80% free and reduced lunch students, I am excited to think of the possibility of veteran students being able to come and learn in a building that is beautiful, safe, welcoming, and technologically advanced. I am excited to see our students become part of a larger student body, which will offer an experience similar to the O'Malley Middle School and will allow for a better transition for our students. While the veteran school is a little bit younger than the East Gloucester School, the building is old. The modular classrooms and the heating systems are well past their life, and this building lacks the necessary infrastructure and technology to offer a 21st century learning experience.
Both Principal Fusco and I are enthusiastic about joining our two communities. The opportunity to collaborate and merge the two schools and create a school that offers a world-class education in a building that supports learning and growth is exciting. The students of Gloucester deserve a building that supports the educational needs of a 21st century education. This new building will be great for Gloucester. The time is now. If we do not take advantage of this opportunity, we will be putting Band-Aids on the current schools for years to come.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. Thank you, folks. Appreciate that. Up next, we have former Councilor President Paul Lundberg. Paul,
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Name and address for the record. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. Paul Lundberg, 5 Bridgewater Street in Gloucester. And I'm speaking as a private citizen, but also as the chairman of Vote Yes for Gloucester Kids, which is a citizens ballot initiative advocacy committee. And our purpose is to advocate for the yes vote on the November ballot. What I'd like to say tonight, the merits of this case have been adequately covered by all of the administration speakers. I would like to thank everyone who's been involved in this. And I was involved in it for a while on the city council, but the city council and the school committee and the building committee and all of the public input. You know, as Jonathan said, there's been a lot of public meetings and we've heard a lot from the public, and this is really excellent. The bottom line of all this, and you know, we've talked about this several times over the years, the important part is that this is up to the voters of Gloucester. And we've all worked very hard to get this into this project into a position where the voters of Gloucester, number one, can understand what it is this project is all about, and two, have the freedom to decide whether it's affordable or not. It's up to them. And I think one of the things that the City Council could do tonight is to vote. It's necessary to vote for the land transfer, yes, but it would be great if it was a unanimous vote. And I've talked to most of you about that. A unanimous vote is a vote in favor of letting the voters decide this project. And I think that if we keep that in mind, that we will be well guided. So those are my comments, and thank you very much, Councilor LeBlanc.
Thank you, Paul. All right, up next we have our school committee member, Lauren Wesson. Lauren, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, name and address for the record, please.
Laura Weeson, 18 Commonwealth Avenue in Gloucester. Yes, I'm a school committee member, but I'm speaking tonight as a citizen and a parent. I urge the City Council to approve this land transfer. I believe this this new school building is so important for the families and the community of Gloucester. I think we're so lucky that we have been approved by MSBA, and we're at this part of the process in these uncertain times where we don't know when the next round of funding will even happen. And now we have the state committed to $26.7 million, $0.9 million to help us build this school. I think it's the smartest way to go, because no matter what, we will end up paying to fix old schools that will never sort of fulfill the needs of the students, as Principal Pasquarello and Principal Fusco talked about. So I urge the City Council to think about, you know, as we move forward with this school process, just how important this school is and how lucky we are to be able to have the state giving us so much money to move forward with this very important project. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. All right, up next we have Samantha. Samantha, can you hear me?
Yes.
There we go.
Can you hear me?
Yes, name and address for the record, please.
Samantha Virga Watson, 24 Ocean Ave in Gloucester. So I'm speaking tonight as a parent of 2 young children and as a school committee member. If we have learned anything from this pandemic, it is that when public education is compromised, it leaves behind a giant crater in our community. Public education has long been underfunded and underappreciated. It is up to us to show that Gloucester values the education of our students and the needs of our staff, who many dedicate 20+ years working in these buildings for our students and our community. Tonight's vote in favor is a step in the right direction to show our city's commitment to public education. Many will say that Veterans is the only green space in this neighborhood. As a former Fuller student and someone who grew up in Central Gloucester, I'm very familiar with learning in a larger school environment, and I'm familiar with the Webster Street neighborhood. I grew up walking to Burnham's Field and Green Street, all safely within walking distance of Veterans. Mados Field will be relocated, and East Gloucester neighborhood stands to gain green space through this project. I urge the City Council to support this land transfer to pave the way, allowing Gloucester residents to show their commitment to our public schools on November 3rd. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. And I'm going to leave Sam on because she's running an older version of Zoom for some reason and asked me to promote her to panelist. And if I disable her talk, I'm going to bump her off the meeting, and we don't want to do that. So I'm just going to ask everybody to mute themselves. I just muted you, Sam. Thank you. All right, moving right along, we have Ruth Flaherty. Ruth, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, name and address for the record, please.
So my name's Ruth Flaherty, and I have a Beverly address because I teach at East Gloucester, which
That's
would
okay.
be United Street. So I've taught at East Gloucester for 20 years, and for the majority of that 20 years, East Gloucester has needed repair. So as you can imagine, over the years, it has gotten much, much worse. I'm going to be very short and sweet because I have spoken in favor of this over the years, but I urge you to take this opportunity. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to give the students and staff a much-needed clean, healthy, and spacious building so that we can do the best job we can for the students of Gloucester.
Thank you, Ruth.
Thank you.
All right. Next, we have Leslie Friday. Leslie, can you hear me? I'm sorry, I may have not done this. Kristen Parsons.
Hi.
Name and address for the record, please.
Kristen Parsons, 39 Harriet Road.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I stood in front of you last year representing 100% of the East Gloucester teaching staff that was and continues to be in full support of this project. I'm here tonight again reminding you of the great needs of our beloved but tired school building and asking that you vote yes on the land transfer. As most of you know, the school building conditions of East Gloucester are beyond repair. The ventilation can only be described as poor. There is constantly humid air, courtesy of the river running beneath us. Just last week, the floors were covered in moisture. One classroom upon arrival to school had all desks and tabletop surfaces covered in condensation, requiring a wipe down for sanitation before the day could even start. Our antiquated heating system is so old we can't even get the parts for repair. Teachers and students often experience extremes in temperature. Other issues we face daily include limited classroom space with small groups and services being provided in the hallways, one designated staff bathroom located in the staff lunchroom, often with a line, limited parking, requiring teachers to walk 2 blocks to work. A vote for the land transfer would be the necessary next step in providing a proper facility to offer the very best education possible. Please don't let us miss this opportunity.
Thank you, Kristen. All right, so I just want to announce we have 67 people in attendance. I don't know if I said that earlier, and I'm going to repeat myself, what I said earlier. If you are on a device or a laptop, a computer, there's a raise hand button. And if you are calling in on a telephone, you can press *9 to request to speak. And we'll try out Leslie Friday. Leslie, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Name and address for the record, please.
Great. My name is Leslie Friday, and I live on 3 Gould Court. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm a parent with 3 children, either currently in or recently out of EGS. My oldest is now in middle school at O'Malley. My 2 younger are now in EGS. I want to thank the City Council and School Committee for such thoughtful work and finding a compromise in this very difficult situation. I really have followed this and admire all the steps that have been carefully taken. I'm very happy that Mados Field will find a new home. I think it's important to meet all of the constituencies where they're at, and especially to honor the life of the veteran, Mr. Mados. So I'm happy for that, and I support this project. I think it's good for our kids. I think it's great for our teachers, as you heard from Mrs. Flaherty and many other teachers on this line. Speaking personally for my own children, I know my kids wore winter jackets right before we were all dismissed in March because the heating system broke down. My daughter consistently has colds and other issues because of the poor air quality and an active stream running through EGS. So when there are school breaks, mysteriously her colds lift, and it's just a sign of the air quality. I know we can do better. I've seen such a beautiful facility at West Gloucester, and I think our kids and veterans and East Gloucester deserve this opportunity to have a wonderful place to be. And as was mentioned, this is a procedural vote, but I just wanted to state that I fully support this project. I admire what the community has done to find a compromise and to find that green space also at EGS. When the facility is eventually demolished, there will be more green space for that neighborhood, which will be an excellent addition. So I'm hoping that many people will find this is a good solution. And I'm really looking forward to hopefully my youngest attending maybe a year or 2 in the new school. But even if not, I'm happy to know that kids in my neighborhood and around the city will really take advantage of a beautiful new school. It makes me happy to support it. especially for less than the cost of one coffee a day. I think we can all afford that for the future of our kids. So thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Leslie. Up next, we have Robert Parsons. Robert, can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Name and address for the record, please.
Okay, Robert Parsons, 39 Harriet Road. I'd like to speak in favor of the land transfer for the new East Gloucester and Veterans Combined School. Without this land transfer, there's no way for the school project and its years of planning to move forward. To vote no on this would mean the schools will continue to deteriorate, patchwork measures will continue to simply get us by until we reach the point where building failure is imminent and we end up on our own to foot the bill for a new building with zero help from the state. There will not be another opportunity to have nearly $27 million handed to us from the MSBA. There will not be another chance to build a school for something like 60 cents on the dollar. There will not be another time in which we can provide a state-of-the-art facility for 440 students for less than the cost of a monthly Netflix subscription for the average household. I hope you recognize this opportunity to take a critical step in the right direction toward building this new school for the children of our city. Thanks for your time and your consideration.
Thank you, Robert. Up next, we have former City Councilor Jason Grow. Jason, can you hear me?
Hey.
Welcome, and name and address for the record, please.
Jason Grow, 12 Marble Road, Gloucester. I'm not going to repeat all the eloquent statements that have already been made tonight. I think all of you know Sarah and my commitment to Gloucester education and the Gloucester community. We are fully in support of this land transfer. We're fully in support of the override. We're still fully in support of the project as a whole. Having sat in your seat, I know that there are sometimes very agonizing decisions that one has to make as a counselor. This isn't one of them. And I know that it's important to hear the voices that are coming out and respect that. And you've clearly done that through this process. And you're making plans, and plans have been made to accommodate the concerns and the needs of people who object to the land transfer. But it's really important that you move this forward. It's important, you know, let me just stop and say that we spent, I don't know, 7 years, 8 years at East Gloucester Elementary. We loved that school. We loved the community. Our children loved it. But it was never about the building, because the building was always crap. All right. It was about building community. And this is to have something of this caliber coming to join forces with Veterans School is going to be such an amazing improvement for the educational quality for kids into the next century, which is what you guys are supposed to be planning for. You know, this is not about, you know, kicking the can down the road, which is something that Gloucester politicians have done far too often and far much to our detriment today. So you guys know the right answer here. We are looking forward to the building of the school and the building of this community, especially in the veterans neighborhood, a community I think that really deserves and needs the sense of enrichment and beauty that is going to come from this facility. So move forward, vote yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jason. Up next, we have Ann Sanfilippo. Ann, can you hear me?
Yes.
Name and address for the record, please.
My name is Ann Sanfilippo. I live on 4 Crestview Terrace. In addition to being a lifelong resident of Gloucester, I have been a teacher at East Gloucester Elementary for over 16 years. I would like to voice my support for the land transfer. My EGS classroom is beautiful and spacious, but it's one of the oldest in the school, constructed 71 years ago. The antiquated heating system has always been one of the main reasons that I feel a new school is warranted. Some days my classroom is so cold, students often need to wear their jackets while learning, and other times the heat is continuously blasting, unable to be regulated. After 71 years, our schools are just tired and worn. It's time to give our children a school that will be safe, clean, and reliable to meet their academic, safety, social, emotional needs. Let's make this priceless investment in our future. It's for the children. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann. Up next, we have School Committee, Kathy Clancy. Kathy, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yep. Name and address for the record, please.
Kathy Clancy, 78 High Popples Road, Gloucester. I am speaking as a parent and as a school committee and building committee member. I have been involved in our school system for many, many years, even before my son entered East Gloucester School. And as Jason Gross so eloquently said it, it was really about building community, not about the building, because I was in the building many times as a volunteer. And, you know, there's no need to go through the litany of things that a 71-year-old school building would, you know, would have. It's very natural that it's very in need of repair, in need of replacement. And I'm so excited for this opportunity that the MSBA has provided to partner with us. And as people remember, hopefully from the West Parish project, the MSBA involvement guarantees a very efficient, quality output and high educational requirements, which are consistent with every school building that is being built now. You know, there's nothing luxurious in this plan. It is going to provide a terrific educational environment for 2 school communities, which is so important to be able to deal, you know, at that point we'll have 60% of our school population in state-of-the-art current educational program settings. And I can't think of anything better for both our children and our staff to have the opportunity to work and to learn even more so in a building like this. So I thank you for your time. Obviously, I am in complete support. I serve on the East Gloucester's building committee, and I will say it has been a pleasure and it has been a lot of work, but at the end of the day, we know we are working for the right thing, and I do hope you vote in favor of this land transfer so that the voters of Gloucester have a chance to hopefully get behind this project as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Up next, we have Larry Oakes. Larry, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Name and address for the record, please.
Sure. It's Larry Oakes, and I live at 4 Clay Court in Gloucester. And I'm the father of 2 Gloucester school kids, one who's graduated from Gloucester High School and one who's at the high school who went to East Gloucester School. So speaking as a parent, I'm in favor of the proposed new elementary school at the current veteran site. And I would ask the council to support the transfer of land at that site to the care of the Gloucester School Committee. I also support building a new softball field at the Green Street Playground, as the city's agreed to do. And I think we've heard said over and over tonight, it's really important to the education, in my case, not of my children, but maybe of their children, but certainly for the future of the city, that we replace the aging, outdated, unsafe veterans in East Gloucester school buildings and provide an adequate learning environment for our kids. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Larry. All right, is there anybody else that would like to speak in opposition? Make sure you press *9 if you're calling on a device, or you are can press. Raise
You
hand
said
button.
opposition. I think you meant in favor.
I'm sorry, in favor. I'm sorry.
President.
Yeah, but that's okay. We can. We have Neil Costa. Neil, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Name and address for the record, please.
Sure, Neil Costa, 130 Eastern Ave, Gloucester, Mass. I just wanted to chime in. I have 2 children in the school system. Both of them went through East Gloucester. One's a freshman at the high school, and one is a 6th grader at O'Malley. And, you know, again, we love the school, but the facility was always a challenge for the students and the teachers. I'm a parent, I'm a citizen. I'm also a business owner in town, and I employ Gloucester residents. I employ students who've gone through the Gloucester school system, and I support the land transfer, and I hope you'll do the same. I mean, we just need to be in a position to launch our children into a very difficult and challenging and competitive world. And a new school is the bare minimum that they need for a platform in order to properly launch in this new world. So I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to speak, and I hope you'll all vote in favor of this land transfer. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. All right, once again, if there's anybody that would like to speak in favor, Jonathan?
Thank you. With the council permission, I have just received a letter from a good friend of mine, and I would like to just read it. It's only a couple of sentences.
Yes, go right ahead.
Okay. Please register my most enthusiastic support for the transfer of Meadows Playground land from the City of Gloucester to the Gloucester School Committee. What a wonderful, well thought out plan that allows all parties involved to be winners. Cordially, Dick Wilson, 12 Village Road, Magnolia. Thanks.
Thank you, Jonathan. I appreciate that. I know Dick just had his hip replaced, and I'm sure he would like to be on the call with us this evening, but I'm sure he's not feeling up to sitting down or doing what we're doing at the moment. And I appreciate you forwarding Dick's email right along to us. All right, is there anybody else that would like to speak in favor? You press *9 if you're calling on a phone, and you can have a raise hand button if you want a device or a laptop. Alrighty, seeing none, I'm going to switch gears here, and we're going to ask for the opposition. And Patty Amaral has asked to be the lead speaker for the opposition. I spoke with her earlier, and I told her that she could take up the entire time, or she can divide it amongst several people. And I'm going to allow Patty to talk. Patty, how are you?
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing well. Before you start, we had 19 minutes for the in favor. So you get up to 19 minutes if you need it.
So I can split that in between people, right?
Yes. So
I'm going to go and then Denise will go.
Okay. Alrighty. But before we start, can we have your name and address for the record, please?
Patty Amaral, 14 Myrtle Square.
Go ahead.
Thank you for giving me the time to speak from Meadows Field. By now, you all should have received in your emails a letter from our lawyers. I will speak of the highlights of this letter. In this letter, there is a notice to pursuant to Mass General Law 66, a violation of law. Immediately upon conclusion of all right and proper appeals, we intend to file with the Superior Court in Essex County a civil action with a claim for relief under Mass General Law C66 10AC and 950 CMR 3202. I submitted a public records request to the City of Gloucester in June 2020.
Patty, I'm not trying to be a jerk, but this is for that a public records request is different from the land. What we're doing, the land transfer right now. I understand that
This is going to lead into that.
Okay,
It's going to lead into it.
I'm not trying to be a jerk, but I want to try to keep it on the land. If you have our lawsuit against the city for a public records request, it's totally different than what we're dealing with.
Well,
tonight, so,
that's not what I'm doing. I'm just reading about.
Okay, but it is different. I'm just telling you, it has nothing to do with the land transfer. I
Well,
understand.
it's going to when I get
Okay.
to this other wording.
I'm going to let you proceed, but I'm
Thank
just
you.
letting. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. In June 2020, and followed up the request with the subsequent clarification and guidance to specific documents requested, including documentation supporting a statement by Gloucester's General Counsel, Mr. Chip Payson. As of September 22nd, we have not been given any such documents indicating that the city's proposed Article 97 conversion and replacement land has been approved by the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs, the EEA. We have not been notified by the City of Gloucester that such documents do not exist. Prior to this request, Mr. Payson stated publicly that the EEA had given its approval of replacement land for Meadows Field in Gloucester. In his address to the City Council on or about February 20th, 2020, Mr. Payson said, on February 11th, the EEA's General Counsel's Office approved the city's proposal as outlined in my January 22nd, 2020 memo. To date, we have their support and approval. The City of Gloucester has yet to provide us with any documentation that the EEA supports the city's proposed conversion of Meadows Field and to replace it with land at the East Gloucester Elementary School. We also requested a copy of such approval from the EEA. The EEA's General Counsel provided the following response. You asked for a preliminary review and a final report relating to Meadows Field, as well as the documentation showing that EEA approved Gloucester's request to use Meadows Field and replacement land at East Gloucester as well. I reached out to Jennifer Shula to find out if these documents exist. The only document that we have been able to locate that has not already been produced to you is attached. This document contains the term Meadows Playground instead of Meadows Field. However, it does not appear to me to be at least a preliminary review or a final report. If a preliminary review or a final report was referenced at a meeting of a public body of the city, I suggest you direct a request to that body, as I am unable to locate any documents so described. We insist that the City of Gloucester nor the EEA have provided any form of documentation that describes the EEA's approval of Gloucester's plan to convert Meadows Field. We also requested a copy of Gloucester's Municipal Board of Park Commissioners or any other municipal board or commission authorized by law to act as park commissioners. Gloucester's Charter, Chapter 15, Article 3, Section 15-30 notes that the provisions of this article apply to a library of recreation facilities, including Meadows Field. Section 15-35 describes the Park and Recreation Commission, its membership makeup, selection process, its authority, duties, and qualifications. We believe we have the right to request a list of park commissioners and that the city has an obligation to provide that list, since the city's charter is clear about its park commission. If Gloucester has chosen not to select a parks commission, the city should provide us with the list of names of those acting as park commissioners. The ultimate response to my request to the City of Gloucester has either been no response or that the records asked for were not being provided due to client privilege. This claim is without merit for multiple reasons. The simplest being that neither Mr. Payson nor the EEA are each other's client. If this response is determined to be appropriate, the city chooses to hide such approval from decision makers and the taxpayers. We are also concerned with the city's failure to submit an environmental notification form, ENF, to the MIFA office as required by MIFA Regulation 301 CMR 1100, which states that an ENF must be filed with the MIFA office if a project exceeds certain thresholds. This proposed project surely meets at least two of the thresholds requiring MIFA review, the involvement of Article 97 land, and the project financial assistance being offered to Gloucester. The Massachusetts Environmental Protection Act review, MIFA review, allows the public a 30-day comment period and enhanced measures to consult. It can guide a project, inform the people, and protect the environment and the rights of the environmental justice population within and close to the affected areas. To the best of our knowledge, the City of Gloucester has not submitted the ENF to the MIFA office. A MIFA review has not been conducted, and appraisals of both the proposed replacement land at East Gloucester Elementary School and Meadows Field have not been done. Appraisals help to inform the EEA and the general public whether or not the replacement site is as good as or better than the land at Meadows Field. Appraisals are used to properly evaluate the project's impact to the land being converted and to help determine the value of the replacement site. Properly done, appraisals help to prevent valuable recreational lands from being replaced with lands of less value and use to the citizens. Accepting the word of the Gloucester School Committee that their recommendation of a replacement land was accompanied with the level of scrutiny provided through the MIFA review is unacceptable. The EEA's Article 97 land disposition policy requires municipalities to engage the MIFA office and provide EEA with land appraisals. We understand that the Article 97 land disposition is not law, but the Article 97 legislation signed into law includes language that requires the city to replace Meadows Field. Selecting land of smaller size and less value than all of the Article 97 area proposed to be constructed upon Webster Street as the East Gloucester school site may certainly be, would not, in our view, satisfy the legislation's requirement to replace Meadows Field. In the recent past, Governor Baker and the EEA secretary have mandated that the MEFA review be conducted prior to the municipal land transfers. Moreover, we intend to use all appropriate and necessary processes and venues to ensure that the City of Gloucester, along with the EEA, have adhered to the laws and municipal requirements stating in the EEA's Article 97 land disposition policy, as well as the law governing municipal land transfers. For your consideration in advance, there are several more issues we would like to pursue in addition to the ones we described here. But for today, we present these concerns for you to consider. We look forward to your response. Thomas A. Kennefic III, Esquire, Patricia Amaral, and the Friends of Meadows Field. For Joseph, thank you. I'm hoping Denise can come on now and finish.
Thank you, Patty.
Thank you so much.
All right, Denise, can you hear me? Name and address for the record, please.
Hi, Denise Piscucci, 20 Birch Grove Heights.
All right, you're at 9 minutes, so you got 10 minutes, Denise, just to give you a heads up.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
Thank you, Patty. And I think this is very important for people to understand that the people that are going to be voting no, a majority of us that are voting no, is because we feel that the land that you chose of 6.25 acres is extremely small for a 440 student school. For a $5 million difference and the size difference, I think that the choice was not in the best favor of anybody here. None of us want to have our children in schools that are unsafe. So please let people know that that is not the reason here. We are trying to save some green spaces in Meadows Field. I want to read a news release that we want to let people know the reasonings for our concern here, and for hopefully that the City Council will think about these issues that we have. And this is for private citizens questioning the legalities related to Gloucester's surrendering of Meadows Field for a proposed new school have put the City of Gloucester on notice of a potential legal action. The potential action relates to the city's withholding of approval it claims to have received from the state's Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs. The citizens' recent public records request seeks a copy of the EEA's approval of Meadows Field conversion to the school department and its replacement land at East Gloucester Elementary School. Gloucester has not responded to several of the items included in the documents requested. The city has also denied supplying the information due to attorney-client privilege as claimed by the Gloucester General Counsel. Mrs. Patty Amaral explained the city cited the EEA approves for months, convincing the City Council, the school committee, and the general public that the highest environmental agency in the state approved everything. Yet they will not produce anything to that effect. There have been no land appraisals of Meadows in East Gloucester and no EEA environmental review on the project site. They're supposed to do a MEPA review. All of those things and more are required by law. On top of that, the Article 97 legislation was mysteriously altered in its travels to the state legislature. The city had vowed to meet the no net loss of Article 97 protected land provisions touted by the EEA, but somehow that language disappeared on Beacon Hill. We are going to find out with assistance from a top legal team from Springfield, how is Gloucester exempting itself from all the protections we own as citizens? And why is the EEA apparently looking the other way? If we can't get the basic approval of documents and they can't commit to a fair and equal land swap, then what else could they be hiding? Is there more that the people don't know about? Gloucester taxpayers and private donations accounted for over $280,000 to enhance Meadows Field. I, for one, was on the Light Up Meadows committee, and it took us a lot of time to get that money together and get that field together, okay? So this is important. The taxpayers and other general people, a lot to help us fix Meadows Field. We got suckered again through the CPA program of extra taxation. Ms. Amaral refers to 4 separate public and private funded enhancements to Meadows Field through the Community Preservation Act. The CPA funds come from an added assessment to property taxes for limited uses, including open space and historical preservation. Expenditures on privately held land require ironclad conservation restrictions be placed on them, but apparently the same is not true for land that is already parkland. If they use $10,000 of CPA money to enhance a privately owned property into a little green space for the public to use, the property owner would be obliged by law to permanently keep the land as park for public use. But when the taxpayers spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to rehabilitate one of their public playgrounds, the city feels it has the right to come in and tear it up tomorrow, and they plan to. Thank you so much, and I hope we have time left for other people to oppose.
All right, Denise, thank you. So we're at 13 minutes, so I'm going to stop the 13 and a half minutes. I can allow more people to get up to your 19 minutes, but you don't have to. We can allow the other people just to speak in opposition. You two are the lead people, so I leave it up to you. If you want me to bring people in to be part of your lead opposition, that's fine with me, or we can just bring the other people in as their 3 minutes. It's totally up to you guys.
So bring them in.
Bring them in as part of the lead.
Thank you. Yeah, bring whatever, yeah.
All right.
You give them all the minutes because we got to hear both sides.
Well, it doesn't matter whether they're part of your presentation or they're going to get to speak anyway, Patty, period.
Okay.
You see what I mean?
No, I don't have any more presentations.
All right. So, okay.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you for letting me speak. I really appreciate
My
that.
pleasure. I just wanted to try to keep it on track and not get sidetracked. And I appreciate, you leading into that. So it made a little bit of sense. Thank you, Patty.
Okay, thank you.
All righty. So let me do my thing here. So we have Olympia. Olympia, can you hear me? All right. I'm gonna say this is Luis from last week. And all right, Luis, can you hear? I can hear you. Yeah.
Oh, I can't believe it.
Finally. So we had a conversation last week on how she couldn't get in, and I'm glad she's in tonight. So, Luis, can we have your name and address for the record, and you get up to 3 minutes, please.
Olympia Louise Palazzola, 57 Western Avenue, Gloucester, Mass. I was going to speak, first of all, at open communication, but you skipped it. I didn't know if you were supposed to do that.
We typically don't have that during a special meeting.
Oh, okay. All right. Then basically, I'm definitely against the transfer of the land at this point. I don't know when the 120 days is up for the MSBA money or what has to be put in place. Is it after the vote or is it before? I don't know that answer, and I'm hoping that maybe you can answer that for me. If it's after, if the 120 days is after the vote, then what is the big deal about holding off until then? Also, I listened for an hour about all the beautiful speeches about this wonderful, wonderful school that you're going to put in. And it's a big, big building. And, if I turn around and start to talk to you right now about what I feel is wrong with it, are you going to cut me off? You allowed everyone to speak in favor of it. So that's a dilemma for me because everyone thinks it's a beautiful school. Does it belong on that much acreage? There's not enough acreage. I have a big question about whether there's going to be a retention pond on that property because of the water and the brook that's running through that property. I actually called a retention company today just to ask them questions because I was told there is going to be a retention pond. I've been told that it's at 2 different places. And my question is, where is the retention pond? The woman that I spoke to, I think she's the owner of the company that puts in retention ponds, was horrified to think that there might be a retention pond on school property. She said little children should not be anywhere near a retention pond, especially on school property. So that's a big concern for me as far as what's going on. My in-laws own 25 Webster Street and 16 Webster Street. They are elderly. They've asked me to speak for them because they've been of ill health. They have never been notified of any of this project at all. And sad part is that 16 Webster Street looks like where the entrance to the school is going to go. That in itself is a problem. We've been told that the 10 parking spaces are going to disappear that are there. And the people in that neighborhood have no parking in all the multi-families. They use that. They use that space. They need that space to be off the street when it's snowing. So that's another thing that's going on. I've asked to see the plans of the new school and where it sits on the property. And we've listened so many times to all the wonderful things. So, you know, there are some things that aren't so wonderful. 2 small playgrounds that they're going to close the center of that circle to make it a 3rd playground as the cars don't go by there. There's many flaws in this project. And you know, a rush to judgment because they had to have their vote in to the MSBA, to me, when you have Beeman School that is, I shouldn't say falling apart, I don't want to say that, but it's just as bad, I think. They've had mold problems. You know, how long are they going to have to wait to get a school once we get into this? And that's beside the point of the fact that when, I think it's Mr. Dunn, talks of how much it's going to cost the taxpayer, and that it's going to be $100 or a cup of coffee a day. Well, my taxes are a lot higher than the $500. My assessment is a lot higher than the $500,000 that you talk about. So I'm 74 years old now. I'm not going to live to see the end of the 25 years that it's going to cost to pay for the school. So I'm getting my chance to speak right now, whether you like it or not. I'm sorry. Sorry I couldn't speak at the other meetings, but we need some semblance of build the school on a spot where it fits. It just doesn't fit there. And it's sad to say this is the only place you could squeeze it in. I feel bad about that. Beeman has 20 acres or so. You could have had a joint proposal and put the whole thing, after working on this since 2014, I guess, you would have thought that somebody would have said, let's build a combined school like Rockwood has and put everyone up there if they had to, and then go after the money.
Louise?
I don't understand it. I really don't. I'm glad I'm not in the school committee. I appreciate all of what you're doing. And, but I think, I hate to say it, I think you're all wrong, both school committee and the city council. And I wish you would rethink the whole proposal. I know you want to grab the money. The city of Gloucester cannot afford it right now. Taxpayers cannot afford it. And our property assessments are going up because people are buying here that can afford $2 million homes. They're pricing us out of Gloucester. And that's scary for me. Thank you. And I'm voting against the transfer now.
Thank you, Louise. And I gave you a couple extra minutes because I know we had some minutes left over from Denise and Patty. But you look great for 74.
If yes.
Oh, sorry about that. All right, we got Marianne. Marianne, name and address for the record, please.
Hi, Marianne Albert Boucher, 93 Mount Pleasant Avenue. We believe that saving neighborhood elementary schools and dedicated open space like Mados Field is the best investment in the future for our kids, for education, and for our city. Those in favor claim the same. However, we disagree on the path of how to get there. The research supports the vote no consolidation promises of cost savings and education gains are overstated. We're looking to the MSBA and spending 73 to potentially $80 million to get 25 million. Yet we look at the new YMCA that cost 30 plus million, or we look at the new Cameron's building that cost 12 million. We're spending an astronomical amount of money for this 92,000 square foot piece of property on 6.25 acres of land. Now, I've done my research and I went back to many meetings long ago and found Jonathan Pope at a Good Morning Gloucester video where he stated that they're looking for approximately, or they would need approximately 10 acres of land to make this consolidated school. And I also did my homework in regards to Green Street and found that the feasibility study chose Green Street. And where the switch came up, we spent $1 million to find that Green Street was chosen. And suddenly the Veterans site came up as the proposed use of land. I want to go into the model school that they speak of, that they're using, West Gloucester. 24/7, the electrical is on. They cannot shut the lights off. Such high technology, they haven't hired anyone to be able to take care of the electricity. I was over there on Sunday. In fact, I visited every elementary school as I wanted to view it. I want to learn. I want to educate myself to see what I'm missing if I'm missing something. What I found was a woman from Chile here to visit her uncle with 2 little girls. And she asked me as I was taking a picture of West Parish, do you work here? I said, I do not. And she said, well, the fire alarm has been going off constantly for over 3 hours. And I've been here because I'm stuck here. I can't get back to Chile. They're in complete lockdown. So I'm using this beautiful day to spend it outdoors with my children. The fire alarm keeps going off. What if there was a real fire there? Well, will nobody care? Will nobody come running? I thought that was a brilliant question. I'm also going to go into the poor air quality that the teachers have been speaking of. Poor air quality, yet when I attend these GTA meetings, we're listening to the air quality is wonderful. Mike Hale states that since 2017, that the air quality, you can open these schools, they're no problem, take these children in. We have schools that were built according to current noise on Maplewood. I visited that school 3 days ago. What I found was a beautiful, beautiful building that he's renovating. He said that they're constructed so well. It behooves me that you're going to take a building that's $4 million, the East Gloucester School building, tear it down, wasteful, then spend $1.2 million to $1.5 million to $2 million to create a ball field on Green Street when we have one. We have one right there. The neighborhood loves it. The neighborhood needs it. Our open green space is priceless, and especially in light of COVID. And one last note, I know I've referred to We Can Teach in a Tent that came from Ab Kambadi.
I don't know what happened. Oh, Marianne, we lost you. Hold on, let me see if I can get her back. Marianne. Oh, Marianne.
Yes.
All right, we lost you, Ab Kambadi. I'm sorry.
Okay, and I know you've heard me speak of teaching in a tent, and the vote yes speaks of not being able to teach in a tent. Well, I will ask each and every one of you to go and visit the schools right now. And at Beeman, we have 3 tents that could hold 700 people. At Plum Cove, we have tents. At the other schools, we have tents. Why? Because we are in a COVID situation and we are going to build a pre-COVID school. We can't even put a tent on this new 6.25 acres of land. It is consumed by parking lot, it is consumed by a building, and it is consumed by turf playscape that has a road wrapped completely around it. Like I said in the last meeting, I've watched 3 children be hit at the intersection of Chapel and Davis Street. Davis Street is a very,
Marianne,
yes.
We're well past 5 minutes. I'm trying to give you guys a little bit of extra time. But between you and Luis, you guys are over.
Can I just end it?
You just want to wrap it up real quick.
Yep, I'm going to wrap it up real quick.
Thank you.
February 12th, Dr. Sapphire quoted, we're talking the city council versus the populace. And the city council, we're asking you not to conflate the need for the city council to be fully educated versus our availability to get the message out quick and on simple terms. With a project of this magnitude, all information regarding veterans in East Gloucester property should have been readily available with an itemized cost for the entire project. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mary Ann. All right, so I'm trying to be lenient here with the time, and we're probably over. So I'm just going to try to keep these on point here. Tracy, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, please. Name and address for the record.
Tracy O'Neill, 12 Friend Street. I am asking my city councilors to vote no for this land transfer. I didn't approve of the Article 97 land snatch, in my opinion. I'm just appalled that you're taking a field, you're taking a playground, and you're not replacing it. You're squishing it into another playground that already has a field and already has a playground. So you're taking a field away and you're giving us nothing. You're pretending that you're giving us another field when you're not. That's point number one. You are not replacing Mado's field. You're taking away and not replacing it. You're adding it to another field and squishing everything together. In this world where social distancing is paramount, I don't see any room for social distancing in this brand new school. I'm not against the brand new school. I'm against the location. I live on 12 Friend Street. Cars drive up over my sidewalk like it doesn't even exist. I could barely cross the street the other day, and I wish I had my camera to video it, because it was, I don't know what was going on Eastern Ave, but everybody was coming up Friend Street. And what Olympia said about losing those 10 parking spaces at the top of Webster Street, those people park there in the winter for the snow, but they also park there in the summer, spring, and fall, so that they're not parked on the street. You take those spaces away, those cars are going to park on the street, and there's no way that two cars are going to be able to pass each other on Webster Street. Social distancing, I don't see how that's going to happen in that tiny little supposed playground that you have. In the design, it doesn't look sufficient for 440 kids. Even 220, there's just not enough room for kids to play outside. This is the worst location you could have picked in a congested neighborhood with horrendous traffic. I couldn't help but notice the people who were in favor of this school were from Marble Road, High Populous Road, South Hamilton, Magnolia. They don't live in this neighborhood. I drove down Webster Street on my way to work today, and there's kids and parents crossing the street. There's no crossing guard. There was a crossing guard, pardon me. There was a crossing guard, but they weren't using her. They were crossing the street willy-nilly whenever they felt like it. They weren't crossing at the crossing walk. It's dangerous as it is right now. And if you think that people are going to get in a 400-car queue or a 200-car queue around that building, that's not going to happen. They're going to be driving up Friend Street. They're just going to congest the whole neighborhood. Again, I'm not against the new school. I'm really not. It's just the worst possible location you could have picked. And as far as anyone telling me that I can go to Burnham's Field instead of Veterans or instead of Mado's to play ball with my nephew, the last time I went to Burnham's Field, now, hopefully you guys have been there. The
Tracy,
last time I went to Burnham's Field was about 6 years ago, and they were speaking 3 different languages, none of which were English. And the
Tracy.
ones that were speaking English were swearing the F word and playing the boombox, swearing the F
Chair,
word.
I have a point of order. I really don't like this type of language
Yeah, we
about
can't-
people in our community. I don't think it's very.
I understand, Counselor. Tracy, we can't discriminate against somebody's language or what language they're speaking. I'm going to ask you to wrap it up. You're at 4.5 minutes, so you're obviously you're in opposition.
Okay, I'm
Thank-
sorry. I didn't mean to insult anyone. I
Yeah.
just felt that I felt out of place, and the kids were playing the boombox, and they were swearing the F word, like every other word out of their mouths was the F word. So
Thank you, Tracy.
to me, it's not a comfortable place to go,
Thank you.
and Matos is. So thank you for listening, and I hope my city councilor and my ward councilor will vote no on this. I really do.
Thank you. All right, next we have Kaylee. Name and address for the record, please.
Haley Meoni, 6 Davis Street Extension. Tonight I am speaking as both a parent and a neighbor. As a mother of 2 children who would attend this school, I have a major concern with the lack of green space that the students will have. If we take this field away, the students will be left with only a field that is a 60 by 90 foot turfed area, no grass. This is a 60 by 90 foot area for over 400 children. I have a real issue with that as a mom. I am also a direct abutter of the EGS property. If this vote passes, will the property at 8 Davis Street Extension be protected forever, or will it be subject to future development? Would this site lose the beautiful wooded area that sits next to the school? Lots 1 and C are within wetlands that could potentially be protected under the Environmental Protection Act. If you can take the Article 97 protection off of Matos Field, what would stop you from doing the same at the EGS site? I oppose this project and I urge you to vote no. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kaylee. Up next, we have Teresa. Teresa, can you hear me?
I can.
Name and address for the record, please.
Therese Zing, 41A Mount Pleasant Avenue.
Go right ahead.
My primary concern about this is what is the date that the MSBA is saying that we must transfer this property? Is it before or after November 3rd? I heard Louise ask and I didn't hear an answer. I think it's entirely germane to the conversation. If that date is after November 3rd, then we have really no business being here having this discussion right now. We should wait for the people of Gloucester to make this decision. And if they decide to proceed, then fine, we'll go ahead and have this conversation. But if it is before, there's no reason for us to be sitting here having this conversation. I am opposed to the consolidated school at this point at that location for reasons spoken here by others that are objecting to the congestion in the area. I'm also object because of the cost associated with it. You know, for 440 students, we're going to spend $40 million. I think that's ludicrous. And I think that we have other enormous expenses likely on the horizon. And I think I was rather offended by John Dunn, or maybe not offended, maybe that's just the truth that people need to hear, that when he said, there are no exceptions to the property tax, there's no exemption to your property tax just because you can't afford it. That's life. So I object to this because I think we have, you know, much of the city, not myself, has been terribly impacted by COVID-19, and the employment rate skyrocketed from, I don't know, I think it was 3.2 to 19% between March and April. I think this is, if in fact, the transfer date is post November 3rd, we should be taking a back seat, let that vote happen, and then make this decision. So I'm going to go on record and say I oppose the school, I oppose the location, primarily for financial reasons. I don't think we want to price people out of this town. Do we want it to be Manchester or Marblehead? I don't think so. I think it will destroy the character of the town. So on record. And again, could someone tell me when is the date? What is the drop dead date for the land transfer?
We're going to get to questions after we get through the public hearing part of it. So there will be questions, and I'm sure the councilors are writing questions down that you have, and we will ask them.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Teresa. Up next, we have Pam. Pam, can you hear me?
Yes,
Steele?
I just unmuted. Thank you,
Yep.
Steve.
Name and address for the record, please.
Pam Steele, 10 Pilots Hill, Gloucester. My property also abuts the East Gloucester School. When I sent my letter to Joe Ancinos, I mentioned that I don't think we should take a vote at all tonight because there are too many unanswered questions. And the elephant in the room that no one has talked about is that at all these meetings, which I have attended many of, people have brought up many things and asked to please along the way, let's think out of the box, let's do something else. Tons of people don't want this. You probably don't hear it. I have nothing against the school either, but it should be in a place that respects the community. That is very disrespectful to take that area away from that neighborhood. I've been up there all week and I just can't believe that anyone would put a school on such a small access and a footprint and take that. And going back to Article 97, I called when we had the vote and asked, well, what was the vote? And they said, oh, it was 50-50. That meant as many people wrote articles to the State House against transferring to about Article 97 that were for it. There's a lot that has not been said. You have your voice and you say it and you say this is a wonderful thing, but you haven't said all the things that at all these meetings that people have begged you to please think about and listen. It's been like just every time I go to a meeting, I think, well, this will be the meeting where something will really happen that's meaningful, that we will have a conversation. And the mayor says seniors. You're not representing seniors in this by any stretch of the imagination. Do the math. Louise was our top student at the high school in the math department. I mean, we've done the calculations. We've tried to figure out how much longer we can stay here. And I've mentioned this at other venues to you also. You know where we stand. All voices need to be heard, all. Thank you so much, and I do appreciate and I feel for your situation, and I respect the fact that you're willing to help us. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. Appreciate it. All right, is there anybody else that would like to speak in opposition? If you'd like to speak in opposition and you're calling in on a telephone, you can press *9, or if you're on a device or a computer, you can. There's a raise your hand button. All right, seeing none. I'm going to go back to rebuttal. We have 3 minutes for the administration, and then Patty, you were the lead person for the opposition, so I'm going to give you 3 minutes also. So is there any rebuttal from the in favor? All right. Vanessa, no? Seeing none. Is there any rebuttal from Patty? Do you have any rebuttal? All right. Well, actually, where's Patty? There isn't anything really to rebut, but I'm gonna. Nothing, Patty? Nope. There you are, Patty. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hello?
Yep, I'll give you 3 minutes.
I worked with wonderful, wonderful citizens saving Mado's Field and putting it back together because it was broken. It was broken because our city let it break. They left it. They didn't maintain it. They didn't keep it up. I was even the one cleaning the bathroom because they wouldn't even do that. Now, let's think about what you're going to take away from this neighborhood. This neighborhood is a densely populated neighborhood. You all have walked it, haven't you? Have you walked around? Have you talked to the people? Have you walked up to any of the doors and said, hello, I'm a city councilor. I would like to talk to you and ask you about this in your neighborhood. Has anybody? See, and that's the problem. It's like no one has talked to the neighbors. You know, I have the Emerald Forest out here that I'm trying to save, and every chance I get, I talk about it and try to do something positive. This is not a positive step for Mado's Field or this neighborhood. It's also only 4,000 feet in the justice policy. We got to think about that. Many of these people, and I was the PTO president of veterans, I was on the site vice management, And I was the enrichment coordinator. I lived at the school. And so many of these people I know don't even have a backyard. Does everybody here have a backyard? I see some people do have a backyard. It's priceless, priceless. Do not take this away from this neighborhood. It'll be something you will look back in your life and say, I wish I did not do that. Please do not transfer this land to the school committee. You know there's a better answer. This is your chance to do the right thing. We've been talking to you since June of 2020, since we found out about this all the year, you know. And we've gone to all the meetings and we've told you the things that we'd like to see there. And not one of them happened. You gave us a 60 by 90 artificial turf. We can do better, and you know we can. So please, do not vote for this transfer when you don't have to. You don't have to. You don't have to. Think about the children running in the grass. It's okay for them to get a couple grass stains. It's okay. Use a little Tide on there and it'll come out.
All right, Patty, we gotta rebut this.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So if there's nobody else to speak in favor and opposition, Madam Clerk, do we have any communications?
Yes, we do. Okay, so we had 31 emails in favor of the land transfer in the school. We had 4 emails requesting the City Council to wait till the November 3rd ballot vote. Then we had 13 individual emails in opposition.
13, you said?
13, yes, 13.
Okay. Yeah.
And then 1 email from Patty Amaral, who had 5 documents attached. There were several, 3 of them are petitions, Maidelsfield article petition signatures from ipetitions.com. It's not dated, so I don't know when these petitions were, but there were no addresses, just names. And then there was a petition to save our neighborhood schools open space, which had 9, it was an digital petition that had 97 signatures. And then she sent in a copy from a 2019 Save Maidelsfield petition summary that had approximately over 650 signatures. And then she sent in a Survey Monkey response and an Excel spreadsheet, which you've all have seen. They were shared with you. And I believe up until the time of this meeting, there were more emails being sent.
Yeah, during the meeting, I had a notification. We had one from Melissa Prince in favor, and we had one from Christy Lambert in favor. So they keep coming in, but we can't keep receiving. We'll probably get emails for the next few days too. Okay. So we had 31 in favor, 13 opposed, 4 wait, and we had a couple from Patty. We had tonight's meeting, we had 16 people speak in favor. We had in tonight's meeting 6 people speak in opposition. So that is a brief summary for everyone. All right, we'll get into councilor questions. Do we have any councilor questions? Councilor Holmgren.
I was hoping Attorney Payson could address the concerns brought forward by Patty Amaral and Denise Piscucci.
You want to kind of elaborate just on the questions? So
I think I got them, Mr. President.
Right.
I think I wrote them down.
Thank you. Thank you, Jen.
So I'll try to be brief here, but I'll try to touch on all of them. So when this whole notion, this idea of Article 97 came up, Greg Catamatori and I reached right out to EEA after reviewing their policy. We had multiple telephone conversations, and we sent them multiple amounts of information. On the 22nd of October, we sent them a packet of background materials. On November 5th, we sent them the process that we were going to go through. We talked to them about that. On the 12th of December, I sent them a draft of the January 22nd memo. And on March 3rd, we sent them the Article 97 draft. Throughout that time period, we had multiple phone conversations with them, Jen Sulla, as well as some folks from BCR. The comment that Ms. Amaral attributes to me was the result of the draft of the January memo that I sent to EEA on December 12th. We subsequently had a phone conversation, and it was communicated to us from EEA verbally that they thought the memo was fine. They approved the memo. To take this a little bit further, EEA, through its own policy, has an opportunity to recommend by the secretary to the governor that the governor veto the legislation. They didn't do that. We worked with them throughout this process. They had some comments on the Article 97 legislation. They had no comments on the documents that we provided up to that point. We incorporated their comments, and the way the process, according to EEA, was described to us was that they're a necessary component to this. Why? Because when Article 97 legislation is filed, the legislature immediately reaches out proactively to EEA. EEA then comments whether they have any issues with the Article 97 legislation. If they don't, the legislature passes it. The governor receives the Article 97 legislative bill. The governor reaches out to EEA and says, do you have any issues with this? If they don't, he signs it. So to argue that EEA never approved this doesn't make any sense. The communication to me about the memo verbally was an approval, and I think impliedly through the fact that this bill passed is a clear indication with no issues that EEA did in fact approve this, as did the legislature. And I heard somebody say it was a 50-50 vote. That's not true. It's got to be by the Constitution a 2/3 legislative vote. So 2/3 of both houses of the legislature approved this Article 97 bill, and it passed. So, and as a side note, Ms. Amaral asked this question in a public records request, and on August 17th, 2020 at 11:58 a.m., my office through Next Request communicated to her that the approval was verbal. In terms of the Park and Recreation Commission, it's true that Gloucester does in fact have a Park and Recreation Commission ordinance. However, as we all know, there is no Park and Recreation Commission currently constituted. Under the DPW ordinance, which is Mike Hale's powers, which is section 2-283, it says the Department of Public Works, under the direction of its director or Public Works and the supervision of the mayor, shall, number 11, have the charge and control of all the lands, buildings, and other property, and also the direction and control of all the activities heretofore directed by the Board of Park Commissioners, the Playground and Recreation Commission, the Board of Sewerage Survey, and the Board of Water Commissioners. So the ordinance has taken the powers heretofore from the Board of Park Commissioners and put them in Mike Hale's hands. Now, Ms. Amaral asked for a list of the park commissioners, and as we know from public records requests, we are not authorized or ordered under the law to create documents. We have no list of board commissioners. There is no board commission, so we didn't provide any documents. We did provide the ordinance of the board commissioners, but she asked for documents, and we provided what we had. Just a comment on the no net loss policy disappearing on Beacon Hill. So not only did EEA review this legislation, but as is typical, and as some of you know, Councilor Hare in particular, since he's done a couple of home rules with me, we submit the legislation to the legislature through Senator Tarr's office and Representative Ferrante's office. That legislation then goes to the House Legal Counsel and the Senate Legal Counsel. They then change the legislation. They change it to comply with the law as they see it, and then the legislature passes it. So to argue that the no net loss policy disappeared miraculously or mysteriously, one only needs to look at the legislative process and the fact that the legal counsels on the House and the Senate weigh in on this and make the appropriate changes. Now, I would suggest to you that simply because it says no net loss doesn't mean that that is not included. As we know, the legislation conditions the transfer of this property on the creation of new comparable open space. That is, in and of itself, a no net loss. Finally, I'd just like to touch briefly on the MEPA section, and I think that Greg can chime in a little bit on this as well. In the 1998 policy by EEA, it's up to the Secretary of EEA to determine the city's compliance as to whether or not we need MEPA review at this stage. Again, as I said to you, EEA had plenty of time to disagree with us, and in fact, they had the authority to request that the governor veto this legislation if something was incomplete. It was not. Further, during our conversations with EEA, multiple phone conversations, both Greg and I, as we went through the process that they had laid out in the memo, at no time did EEA ever suggest that we needed a MEPA review. If they did, we would have done it. And I don't know if Greg has any further comments on this, but I'll go ahead and open it up to him if you'd like.
Yeah, go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, the only thing, thank you, councilors. The only thing I would add is, again, this is a policy that was created 22 years ago. It actually doesn't even title the agency that currently administers it. It's expanded, as you know, to include energy and the environmental affairs. And again, it's an outline, and it also clearly identifies in the language itself that a Article 97 disposition can be carried out without any consultation of using this policy. Again, I think the governor's office uses the arms of all of its executive agencies to inform him as to whether something is appropriate to be signed as legislation or vetoed. And I think, Chip had an accurate representation of what we conducted to go through and be proactive and consult with EEA to ensure that we followed all the steps. And I believe specifically on the no net loss policy, it's stated in Section 2 of the legislation that was passed that actually has the language that says to ensure no net loss. And that is what was defined in the open space that would be offered. And just a final note, again, this process also involved consultation at EEA's discretion with some folks from DCR, as they are the state stewards of public lands. So, there could have been the option of choosing, a similar acreage in West Gloucester or North Gloucester of wooded land that has no access to it. That could have been an option. Again, I think the nexus here is that this will expand on an open space in East Gloucester. It also included the language of expanding or improving a softball field, because that was something that was important to the administration to include in the legislation. So I deeply respect Patty Amaral. I've worked with her on the Open Space Committee, and I know that these decisions over the years and decades are what the city has to face, and they're difficult decisions. There are multiple needs in a community, and they're often diametrically opposed. But to suggest that the process wasn't followed, I mean, I think we've done everything that we needed to do to present it to the legislature. And now this, again, has been outlined, is an important step in the process of pursuing the funding and the construction of the new combined school.
Thank you, Greg. Jen, you satisfied? Answer your questions? All right.
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Chip, also for bringing up the vote from the legislature. I actually got in touch with Ann Margaret's legislative aide, and the vote was unanimous. So thank you very much, both of you.
Thank you, Jen. Any more councilor questions? Councilor Gilman?
Thank you, Counselor. These questions kind of have something to do with the land indirectly. I just wanted to ask two questions. One about the retention pond. If you could explain that, possibly, Mike Hale, and parking spaces on Webster, which I had recalled that there were 8 that were going to remain there based on our site visit. So those were just two things that came up by members of the public that I just wanted clarification. And then my third is a question that came up by Jerry Goulart, which is how do we guarantee the successful moving of Mados Field to Green Street Playground? He had sent that in to all of us today, and I just wanted to make sure somebody asked that. Thank you.
Thank you, Val. All right, so we got 3 questions. So who'd like to start off?
President LeBlanc, so relative to a retention basin or retention area, for it's stormwater. So most stormwater and the DEP stormwater management is handled on site, and it's retained on site and it's infiltrated back into the ground. The detention basin would retain it, would detain it, and then discharge it off site. Retention is keeping it on site. That's pretty much the methodology used for most construction these days, is to retain it on site, put it back in the ground, groundwater recharge. It's desirable. It's the right way to manage stormwater. It collects in a single point or multiple points designed for this. And so it's just not sheet flow off site, causing someone else some issues downstream. That's what retention ponds or retention basins would do on any developed site in the city. They don't need to be deep, big, infrastructure with fences around them. They could be, the idea of like a rain garden, which is probably a little fancy name, but it's still, that is a retention area for stormwater. Is that helpful, Val?
Yes, thank you.
Councilor Gilman, the successful guarantee of Mados to move of Mados to Green Street, was that one of the questions?
Yeah, I was just reading off of an email that Jerry Goulart from 39 Hart Street had submitted to us mid-afternoon. So I just wanted to make sure that
Yes.
we covered that.
Councilor Gilman, not to interrupt, but I think if you read through Mr. Goulart's letter, his question was based on, and this would be what I think you should be asking, or we should be asking as counselors, about the access from Schoolhouse Road. In his letter, he says that Sam Park or Gloucester Crossing has denied access to that. And I think that would be what I would like what we should be asking. Is that a true statement, or is Mr. Goulart just not aware of the current situation?
Thank you.
Sorry to interrupt.
I'd still like my question answered. So we can add yours on too, Barry.
Well, I can't touch on the Sam Park piece, but clearly section 3.
I could, Chip, if you want me to.
All right, let me just touch on this Green Street piece quick, Mike. So clearly the legislation that passed is the law. So once we start down this path, there are multiple pieces according to the Article 97 legislation that we must do. And one of those in section 3 is the upgrade of the ball field and accommodations at Green Street. So that's the guarantee that it's going to happen, that it's the law, and we have to follow it. And once we pull the trigger on the land transfer, we start this whole process. With section 1 is the transfer. Once that happens, if in fact that happens tonight, then all of these pieces start to flow and be legally required. Mike?
Thank you. And then my third question was about the parking. It's a little bit of a deviation from the actual land transfer, but I just recalled that there were going to be 8 remaining spots on Webster when we had the site visit. So if you could confirm that, somebody, I think Louise Palazzola said there would be none, and I didn't remember that that was the case. Thank you.
All right, who would like to answer that? Chairman Pope?
What the plan currently holds is right now the parking spaces on Webster Street are angled parking going in, and because of the access road needed for the buses, we're going to have to change that to parallel parking. So there'll still be parking on Webster Street, but there'll be less spaces. I think it goes from 12 down to 8, as Councilor Gilman said. But there will also be, I think, 112 parking spaces on site of the school, where there are currently 30 or 35. I don't know exactly.
Great, thank you. My
Thank
questions
you.
are answered. Thank you.
Jonathan, before you jump off real quick, I know while we're talking about the parking, I know the city allows the other schools to open up for winter storm parking. That will be permissible on this property also. With the
that has always been our policy during snow emergencies, that people can park in the school. It didn't work out that well at the high school a few years ago, but you know,
some things we can't control. I get you. All right, so there'll be more parking for off-street parking for winter storms. Great, thank you. All righty, Val, you all set with questions?
Thank you.
Okay, any other councilor questions?
Just
Councilor
just that the court, what I had said about the letter from Mr. Goulart, and I think the DPW director, I think Mike Hale was going to chime in on that, and then I have one other. But Mike, if you would be able to enlighten us.
Of course, Schoolhouse Road is a public way, but it does not abut the Green Street property. Market Street, which extends past the intersection of Schoolhouse Road and Gloucester Crossing Road, abuts the property. And there have been initial discussions with Mr. Park on the potential for proposing an access off that, and he was amenable to that.
Thank you.
Next question, Barry.
Okay. Yeah. The other thing is, I just wanted to sort of make a comment versus a question about the Article 97 legislation, and I wanted to thank the entire.
Barry, before you get into the weeds, we're at questions. You'll have
all right.
We'll have
that's fine.
All right.
Yep.
We'll have councilor discussion after, so that'll be probably better suited for that. Okay. All right. Any more councilor questions? All right. Oh, Councilor McCarthy.
Yeah, to V, can we just get that question answered, V, that was asked several times? The 120 days after the vote, when is that date?
I believe that is December 24th of 2020. That's when the 120 days runs out. But, you know, as I want to point out, like we did with the loan order that was approved last week, we're kind of getting our ducks in a row right now and planning ahead. So to transfer this land right now, you know, if the vote were not successful in November, we would take action to rescind that, just as we would the loan order if it wasn't successful. So whether we do it now or later, we're just lining things up in a row. As John discussed in P&D, you know, as we get towards the end of the calendar year, you know, the number of city council meetings are very limited, and we have a lot of city business that needs to happen. Certified free cash, the tax rates, if the vote if the Gloucester residents approve the debt exclusion vote, we will have to do the loan order for that. So there's a lot of things happening after the November 3rd vote. So we're just getting all of our ducks in a row right now to plan ahead. Should everything be successful, we can move forward faster.
I just wanted to get it answered because it was asked a few times, V.
Yep.
Thank you, V. All set, John? Anything else?
Just one quick question that came up again, and it's come up on several meetings, and if Chip could just address it. Chip, one of the abutters to the East Gloucester School was asked several times, could the East Gloucester School again be 97'd and the purpose of that land changed again with a 97 swap? Is that a possibility?
I don't think so. I'll tell you why. I mean, look, you know, the legislature can decide to do anything they want, more or less, within the bounds of the Constitution. I don't think that would ever happen, and I'll tell you why. Because all of this is part of a package deal that the legislature signed off on. You know, the transfer of the land and the use of that property at Mados is contingent upon the creation of this Green Street property, or the East Gloucester property, making that into open space, and then we have to record a deed restriction restricting that as open space. I think this has been set up in such a way that it would be very difficult to unwind that whole thing.
Thank you, Chip. Councilor McCarthy, all set? All righty, thank you. Any more councilor questions? All right, seeing none, I will close the public hearing and call for the committee report, please. Councilor Gilman.
Thank you, Counselor. On a motion by Counselor Gilman, seconded by Counselor Holmgren, the Planning and Development Committee voted by roll call, 3 in favor, 0 opposed, to transfer the care, custody, and control of land known and numbered as 11 Webster Street, which includes Mados Field, Assessor's Map 47, Lot 13, to the Gloucester School Committee for school purposes, and I so move.
Second.
All righty, the motion's been made by Councilor Gilman, seconded by Councilor Holmgren. Any other discussion? Councilor Cox?
I'd like to offer an amendment.
Go ahead.
I would like to make an amendment saying that if the vote on November 3rd does not pass in favor of the school, that the land revert back to the city no later than November 6th, which is the Friday after the vote. I believe that should give enough time to account for all of the votes in the election, and the city clerk has the opportunity to review the votes from that election.
I'll second for discussion for sure.
All righty, amendment has been made for Councilor Cox and seconded by Councilor Holmgren.
The reason why I want to do this, just real quick, the reason why I want to do this is that it gives an end date in sight, and it there's no need for it to come back before us if it doesn't pass.
Thank you, Councilor.
This is it.
I agree with the amendment. I'm not so agreeable on the date. I mean, this is going to be a massive election, so just a few days after the vote.
Okay, can we get Joanne to weigh in on that?
Yeah, I think that would be best, because that way we will have a true gauge of what we're trying to do, whether it's, you know, a couple of weeks. I'm not opposed. I think it's a great, you know, I'm going to support it, but I think that,
unfortunately, my light bulb went on after I didn't want to bug Joanne that close to the meeting, so I figured I'd ask her.
Madam Clerk, what is your guesstimate on maybe a rough estimate on the count, possibly?
Okay, so I do want to tell you that we will count the votes, you know, on November 3rd. After November 3rd, we have a couple of days to count provisionals, if anybody votes provisionals, to see if they're counted or not. Board of Registrars will have to have a meeting. Our UOCAVA, which means overseas military, has 10 days to return their e-ballots in. So I would say that probably, you know, November 6th is too soon of a date. So if you want to push it out to the 12th, you can. There's so many variables that we have to wait for on that. So we have to take into consideration any hand counts, any provisionals, any write-ins. We have to go through all that. So we wouldn't be able to get all that in 3 days.
Okay, so how about November 30th? We'll just call it good at the end of the month. I mean, by then the vote will definitely be certified, and again, there's no not much is going to happen between November 3rd and November 30th.
So we have an amendment and we have a second. We have to have an amendment to the amendment to change it. So if you want to amend your amendment,
I'll amend my amendment to reflect November 30th.
Second.
All right. So
thank you.
So any discussion on the amendment to the amendment?
We'll just be
We're
voting
doing
on the
it.
amendment, Steve, correct?
What's that?
Will we vote on just the amendment first?
We're gonna vote for this amendment, and then we're gonna get back to, it'll change the amendment, and then we'll vote on that one. Councilor Gilman?
I think it's a great idea, and I'll be supporting the amendment to the
Yeah,
amendment.
I think so too.
Thank you.
Any other councilor discussion? All right, so the amendment to the amendment will change the vote from November 6th to November 30th. I will call for if there's no other discussion, I'll call for the roll call vote for the amendment to the amendment. Councilor Holmgren?
Yes.
Councilor LeBlanc? Yes. And I'm going to ask everybody to show your face when you vote, please. Councilor McCarthy?
Yes.
Councilor Memhard?
Yes.
Councilor Nolan?
Yes.
Councilor O'Hara?
Yes.
Councilor Pett?
Yes.
Councilor Cox?
Yes.
Councilor Gilman?
Yes.
All right, so the amendment to the amendment passes on a roll call vote, 9 in favor, 0 opposed. Now back to the original amendment for the
Original motion.
no, this is for the your amendment to
I know.
have the land revert back to November 30th. All right, and that'll be the amendment to the main motion. All right, any more discussion on that? Seeing none, I'll call for the roll call. Councilor Holmgren?
Yes.
Councilor LeBlanc? Yes. Councilor McCarthy?
Yes.
Councilor Memhard?
Yes.
Councilor Nolan?
Yes.
Councilor O'Hara?
Yes.
Councilor Pett?
Yes.
Councilor Cox?
Yes.
Councilor Gilman?
Yes.
All right, the amendment to revert the land back to the school, the city, passes on a roll call vote, 9 in favor, 0 opposed. Now back to the main motion. Any more discussion on the main motion? Councilor Pett?
Yes. A couple of things. First of all, I think obviously over the years, the city has had some issues with long-term planning. And I think it shows at the end of the day that there's a lot of different views, et cetera. With that said, I want to thank the administration for all their hard work on this project, and including the Article 97 legislation, which the city, as it went forward with our state senator and state representative, that they insisted that all the necessary components were included in the Article 97 legislation. Not that, yes, there was this land transfer, but that what was going to happen, in East Gloucester, what was going to happen on Green Street in place of Mado's Field. That was insisted. It was not necessary. As a matter of fact, that's part of what took a while for the legislation to be passed, because in general, the state representative that is in charge of third readings did not want to include all that language in there, but the city insisted, and I wanted to thank the administration for standing by it. And at the end of the day, I'm going to be supporting the move, because even though there's a lot of negatives and a lot of different ways, I think this is the best way to move forward, and that we need to do this for our kids and their education before we lose an opportunity, maybe for another 10 years or more, and we'll be in some serious problems by then. So I'll be supporting it.
Thank you, Councilor Pett. Councilor Cox, and then Councilor Holmgren.
So I'm going to be supporting this tonight. And I just want to bring to everybody's attention that I wrote letters of support to CPA for the lights at Mado's Field. My name was on the letter for asking for donations. I was reminded of that when I was at Sudbury recently, and they have a framed copy of the letter. Very proud that they donated to the cause, and my name was on it. as was Dick Wilson's, and he is also supporting this tonight. Change is inevitable. We have to go with it. We don't necessarily always have to support it. We can fight it. A lot of people are, but you know, I think if I didn't think that this was the right course of action for our schools, I certainly would not be supporting a land transfer. I certainly wouldn't be supporting $4.2 million to make sure that extra things are taken care of for the school. You know, if I really felt strongly against it, I would be voting against it. But I do believe that the proper steps have been taken to a point that satisfies my willingness to compromise the fact that I was on those letters, that I wrote in favor as the Ward 2 City Councilor to support CPA money going to these things. And I'm going to continue to write letters and support and be on committees to help our neighborhoods find money. I did the same thing at Burnham's Field, and that's just who I am. I'm just going to continue writing letters of support on good projects. And this is definitely one of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Holmgren.
Councilors, I know this decision has been fraught and it seems like a minefield at times, but I need to vote in support of this, and I'll tell you why briefly. First of all, I understand that there are people who feel opposed to this land transfer for reasons that have been described by them. At the end of the day, I have to listen to the teachers and the parents, the people who have the boots on the ground. The overwhelming majority of teachers support this land transfer and the building of the new school. And I feel like they're teaching in a MASH unit right now. I am pleased to send our daughter to the West Parish Elementary School, although she is currently in a remote program. She has had the privilege to attend that beautiful school over the past few years, and I want the same privilege for the other children in this community. Moreover, I do want to speak briefly on behalf of the many senior citizens who have reached out to me and said that they are in favor of this project and they want me to vote yes tonight. The baby boom generation was privileged to attend brand new schools after World War II, and these schools are now derelict, and they feel a social responsibility and an obligation to help their grandchildren, our children, to attend schools with as many modern facilities as we can afford. So thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Councilor Gilman.
Thank you, Counselor. I'll be supporting this, but I do want to be clear of 3 matters that were important to me in this decision. First of all, a comment that Mike Hale made on his our Public Works Director on the letter that he submitted to the mayor, because Mike is the is responsible for the care, custody, and control of this parcel. And that is, the intent was to ensure a no net loss of lands protected for conservation and recreational purposes in the construction of a new softball field at another location in the city. So that was part of Mike's recommendation, which was incorporated into the Land Disposition Committee, which I want to make sure that people are very clear about that. Further, I want to just elaborate on Chapter 152 of the Acts of 2020, an act authorizing the City of Gloucester to use certain lands and municipal school purposes. Section 2 stated in this document, school committee transfers care, custody, control of certain land comprising approximately of 2.8 acres, more or less, located at 8 Davis Street, which includes East Gloucester Elementary School, comprises of lots 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, A, B, C, D, in the lot labeled portion of Maxwell Parsons Playground. Further, Section 3 elaborates on what Mike Hale said in his memo, and that is Public Works upgrades softball field facilities and accommodates in another city-owned open space located at 6 Green Street and 18A Beckford Street prior to the discontinuance of the use of Meadows Field associated with the commencement of school construction. I just felt that those were 3 things that I want to make sure that we're all clear on. They're very important to this being supported, I believe, at least from where I sit. Just thank you to Ann Margaret and Bruce for carrying forward this important document through the House and the Senate and through Governor Baker. So thank you.
Thank you, Val. Any other councilor discussion? Councilor McCarthy.
Yes, this is a very difficult decision for me. I support our schools 100%. I have been in all these schools multiple times with our Cops and Kids program. But for me to vote yes tonight would mean that I'm saying that that's the best place to put that school and it's the best for the city. I just heard Councilor Pett say that we have a history of not planning, and I think it's time to start planning. We have a 95-year-old fire station that 70 men are living in 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We're getting rid of a $4 million property and tearing it down to put some trees and benches on it. We're getting rid of a ball field that's historic and dedicated to a veteran. We're paying $400,000 a year in the neighborhood of that to rent a 50-year-old building at Blackburn. I really think we have to come up with a better plan. I've looked at the traffic plan, having a extensive history in public safety. We're going to have this school for 70 years, and I really think that we're going to adversely affect the neighborhood and the traffic for 70 years. The easy thing would be to vote yes, but I don't believe the public has weighed in on this. They'll weigh in on funding it, but I just can't vote for something I don't believe in. Thank you.
John? Councilor O'Hara?
Thank you. I too also will not be supporting this tonight. Many of the reasons Councilor McCarthy has noted, the traffic in the area at best at the present is congested at school exiting time. To do double that traffic, I think is going to cause chaos on Eastern Ave, Webster Street, and the side roads up in the neighborhood. I think the present state of the economy, I spoke to one gentleman today, self-employed, asked him how business is. He said it was horrendous. People aren't spending money. People don't have that money to spend. I think we have to look at the economy. Also the school itself. We're in a crisis with COVID-19. For anyone to say they know how this thing is going to end, hopefully it ends and it ends soon, but none of us know that. We don't know what a school is going to look like, whether it's a year from now or 5 years from now. So I think we're planning on something that we just don't know what's going to happen. Also, Private Joseph Mados, he died at age 19 in one day. He died. I spoke to a gentleman today, 33-year veteran, retired colonel of the United States Army, who clearly was well-versed on World War I, which was the war that Joseph Mados died for this country at age 19 in one day. And he told me, this retired colonel told me that that was a fierce, vicious war. And to think how he passed protecting and serving our country. And in 1935, we dedicated a piece of property to his name. If, God forbid, if there was a man or a woman that did the same thing in 2003, which is 17 years after that they dedicated Mados Field to Private Joseph Mados, I don't think we'd be here tonight discussing taking away that land. I think we should honor Private Joseph Mados. Again, I will not be supporting this tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. Any other counselors? All right, seeing none, we have a vote. Does everybody understand what we're voting on? All right, and I just want to say before we take the vote, this isn't a done deal from us. This still has to go to a vote of the people. The people will have the final say in all this. This is just to accept the land for MSBA. So the done deal will come after the general election and the citizens of Gloucester speak. So, all right, I will call for the roll call. Councilor Holmgren?
Yes.
Councilor LeBlanc? Yes. Councilor McCarthy?
No.
Councilor Memhard?
Yes.
Councilor Nolan?
Yes.
Councilor O'Hara?
No.
Councilor Pat?
Yes.
Councilor Cox?
Yes.
Councilor Gilman?
Yes.
Motion passes on a roll call vote of 8 in favor, 2 opposed. Alrighty,
Counselor,
Councilor Gilman?
I'd like to make a
Whoa,
motion.
whoa, whoa.
I would
8
like-
and 2 isn't right.
Oh, hold on. Go ahead, Councilor Gilman.
Wait, whoa, whoa, whoa. Hold on. You said 8
Oh,
and 2.
I'm sorry. 7 in favor, 2 opposed. I'm sorry.
Okay,
Good call, Barry.
Thank you. And I
Thank you.
wanted to make a motion to reconsider.
Second.
All right, motion to reconsider has been moved and second. Does everybody understand the vote? All right, I will call for the roll call. Councilor Holmgren?
No.
Councilor LeBlanc? No. Councilor McCarthy?
Yes.
Councilor Memhard?
No.
Councilor Nolan?
No.
Councilor O'Hara?
Yes.
Councilor Pat?
No.
Councilor Cox?
No.
Councilor Gilman?
No.
Motion to reconsider fails on a roll call vote of 7 opposed, 2 in favor. Alrighty, councilors, great job this evening. We're going to wrap it up. Can I entertain a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. One more roll call. Before we do that, I want to thank everybody that was on the call this evening. City staff, all the attendees, school committee, school teachers, principals, superintendents, former and past and present. Thank you, everybody. We have a motion to adjourn. We have Councilor Holmgren.
Yes.
Councilor LeBlanc. Yes. Councilor McCarthy.
Yes.
Councilor Memhard.
Yes, good night.
Councilor Nolan.
Yes, and good night.
Councilor O'Hara.
Yes.
Councilor Pat.
Yes, and thank everyone for all their words on both sides.
Thank you, Barry. Councilor Cox.
Yes.
And Councilor Gilman.
Yes, thank you.
Motion passes to adjourn, 9 in favor, 0 opposed. Good night, everybody. Great job.
Thank you.